On the morning of day 12, Dr. Caroline Briggs stood at the observation rail above Pip's enclosure with her coffee going cold in her hand and no answers left to try. Pip lay pressed into the far corner of her pen, her small gray body curved inward like a question mark, her trunk folded under her chin, her eyes open and fixed on nothing. She had not eaten in 3 days. She would not eat for 18 more. She was 6 months old, and she was disappearing in plain sight, not from any illness the vets could name, not from any wound they could treat, but from something quieter and harder to reach than either of those things. Dr. Briggs had spent nearly 30 years studying elephant behavior across 4 continents. She had pulled calves back from the edge of starvation, from poaching sites, from drought and conflict. She was considered one of the most experienced elephant rehabilitation specialists alive. She had walked into that facility every single morning for 12 days, believing that today would be the day she figured it out. She was running out of mornings. Pip had arrived 3 weeks earlier, found alone in the Kenyan bush, badly dehydrated, separated from her herd during a drought that had pushed entire elephant families into desperate movement. The first 9 days at the center had looked hopeful. She took her formula. She explored her enclosure with that wobbly, ears-wide curiosity that makes baby elephants impossible not to love. She pressed her trunk through the fence toward the older elephants nearby, reaching for the kind of contact her species cannot live without. Then, on day 9, something shifted. She started spending long hours near the enclosure gate, not restless, but still in a way that felt deliberate, like waiting. Her meals shrank. The night staff logged her, pacing the fence line in the dark hours, trunk raised and swaying slowly, as though she were searching for a scent that kept slipping away. By day 12, she had stopped eating completely. The veterinary team ran every examination available to them. Blood panels, hydration markers, neurological assessments, full body imaging. Every result came back the same way. Physically, Pip was healthy. No infection, no injury, no disease. Her body had nothing measurably wrong with it. And yet here she was, growing quieter, growing stiller, her solid little frame beginning to hollow out from the inside. Dr. Briggs tried everything she knew. Supervised sessions with Grace, the center's calm, weathered matriarch. Sensory enrichment packed into every corner of the enclosure. Speakers positioned near the fence, playing audio from wild elephant herds across 3 regions. Each attempt was careful and considered and complete. Pip lay in her corner and breathed. It was the nighttime footage that first cracked the case open, though Dr. Briggs did not recognize it as a crack at the time. She was reviewing the infrared recordings from day 14 when she caught it, Pip, completely motionless in the dark, producing sounds that did not belong to any elephant vocalization pattern in the scientific literature. Not the subsonic rumbles elephants use for long-distance communication, not the sharp trumpet blasts of alarm or excitement. Something else entirely, a deep, rolling undertone woven through with higher, nasal, rising and falling calls, layered, deliberate, like a conversation being attempted in a language built from 2 different species at once. Like the sound a cat makes when it is calling for something it cannot find. Dr. Briggs played the recording 4 times. She checked her equipment for malfunctions. She compared the audio against her full library of known elephant vocalizations. Nothing matched. And yet the pattern felt intentional, not random distress, but something directed, aimed outward, aimed at someone specific. Day 15 brought a harder crisis. Pip began pressing her forehead against the concrete edging of the enclosure's barrier wall slowly, steadily, her weight leaning forward, her eyes half closed. The veterinary team responded immediately, cushioning the surfaces and working to redirect her attention. The behavior stopped when staff were present and resumed when they stepped back. She was not trying to escape. She was not disoriented. She was pressing her forehead against the only solid thing available to her, the way a person might press their face into a pillow in the dark, just looking for the small comfort of something that does not move. Dr. Briggs had not slept properly in over a week. She had sent the case files to colleagues in Nairobi, Johannesburg, Chiang Mai, and Toronto. She had shared the audio recordings and the behavioral footage with 3 university research departments on 2 continents. Every expert who reviewed the material said the same thing in slightly different words. They had never seen anything like this. Elephant calves in conservation settings sometimes grieved, sometimes withdrew, but not like this, not this targeted, not this sustained, not this specific. The breakthrough arrived at 2:40 in the morning on day 18 because Dr. Briggs was too worried to sleep and was re-watching footage she had already seen half a dozen times. She was playing back a clip from the previous night, Pip lying still, producing those strange layered vocalizations into the dark when something in the corner of the frame caught her attention. A shape, just outside the enclosure fence, then another beside it, then a third. Stray cats, the kind that drifted in and out of the staff quarters and surrounding bush at all hours of the night. 3 of them had settled just outside Pip's fence, sitting upright, ears forward. And as Pip's calls rose and fell in that impossible cat-like cadence, the 3 cats shifted in response, heads tilting together, tails curling at the tips, and then one of them opened its mouth and answered, a long to low, rolling trill that pressed itself through the fence wire and crossed the dark enclosure toward the small elephant lying on the other side. Pip's ears moved. Dr. Lou. Briggs sat back in her chair and stared at the screen for a long time before she reached for her notepad. Pip was not crying into empty air. She had learned a language somewhere, and whatever she was saying, cats understood it. Later that same morning, the board of directors called. Their message was not unkind, but it was direct. If Pip's condition did not show clear, measurable improvement within 24 hours, they would need to begin discussing euthanasia. The calf was suffering. Prolonging that suffering without a viable path forward was not compassionate care. It was avoidance. Dr. Briggs thanked them, hung up. Then she pulled up the original rescue paperwork and found the name of the wildlife photographer who had first located Pip in the bush and fostered her through the initial 2 weeks of recovery before the center transfer. His name was Daniel Archer, and he ran a small research station roughly 400 kilometers north. She called him at first light. Daniel picked up on the second ring. He listened without interrupting while Dr. Stan Briggs walked him through the entire 3 weeks: the refusal to eat, the fence pacing, the head pressing, the vocalizations, the 3 stray cats outside the wire responding to sounds no elephant had any right to be making. When she finished, he was quiet. She told him she was going to play him a recording. She held the phone to her speaker and pressed play. The sound of Pip's nighttime vocalizations filled the line, that deep rumble threaded through with high, chirruping, cat-like calls rising and falling in the dark. Daniel's breathing changed. She heard it clearly through the phone. She played it again. he asked her to. A third time. And when it ended, he did not speak for a long moment. Then he said, quietly, "I left something out of my report. I was afraid no one would believe me." The truth came out slowly, in the careful way of someone who has been carrying a weight and is finally setting it down. Pip had not spent her 2 recovery weeks alone with Daniel at the research station. She had shared that time with 3 orange tabby cats who had lived at the station for years: a broad, amber-eyed Tom named Walter, a lean and watchful female named Clover, and a young, chaotic, endlessly energetic male named Fig. Daniel had not included them in his official documentation because he had assumed 3 cats and a baby elephant were irrelevant background detail. He understood now, listening to that recording on the phone, that he had been catastrophically wrong. Walter had approached Pip on her very first afternoon at the station, which surprised Daniel, because Walter had never shown interest in any of the other animals that had passed through over the years. He had walked up to the resting calf, sniffed her trunk from tip to base with great deliberateness, and then settled himself against the warmth of her front leg as though he had been doing exactly this his entire life. He barely left that position for the full 2 weeks. But it was what happened on day 4 that Daniel had never told anyone. He had woken before dawn to a sound he couldn't immediately identify, a low to steady, layered rumbling from the station's covered veranda. He found Pip lying on her side in the dark, and all 3 cats arranged against her body, and the sound coming from all of them together. Pip's rumble woven through with Walter's purr, Clover's quiet trill, Fig's small chattering call rising and falling in a rhythm that sounded, in the half-dark of that early morning, like breathing. Like a single living thing breathing. He had stood in the doorway for a long time without moving, afraid that if he stepped forward, whatever he was witnessing would stop. He had never told anyone that. He hadn't known how. Clover had taken on what Daniel could only describe as a guardian role, circling Pip's resting area at regular intervals, pausing to press her forehead briefly against the calf's side before completing her circuit and beginning again. When unfamiliar sounds came from the surrounding bush at night, it was Clover who rose first, positioning herself between the noise and the sleeping elephant. Fig was simply Fig. Young, relentless, and absolutely convinced that Pip's trunk was the most interesting object in the known world. He would crouch at a careful distance, tail twitching, then bat at the swinging tip with both soft paws, while Pip lifted and lowered it with a patience and delight that matched his own. Daniel had filmed these sessions on his camera because he had known, even then, that no one would believe him without evidence. Over the 2 weeks, Pip's vocalizations during play had begun incorporating sounds borrowed directly from Fig, small chirps and chattering calls woven into her elephant rumbles, building into something that functioned, unmistakably, as a shared language. The morning the transport vehicle arrived from the center, all 3 cats had gathered around Pip during the loading process in a way that made everything harder. Walter refused to move from his position against her leg until Daniel lifted him personally. Clover sat at the top of the loading ramp the entire time and watched. Fig darted back and forth between the truck and Pip until the engine turned over, at which point he sat down in the red dust and watched the vehicle disappear around the first bend in the road, and did not move from that spot for a long time. For 2 full days after Pip left, none of the 3 cats touched their food bowls. Each evening, they gathered at the place where the transport truck had been parked, sitting close together in the fading light, watching the empty road. Dr. Briggs sat very still after Daniel finished speaking. Through the observation window, she could see the faint gray shape of Pip lying motionless in the enclosure below, the morning light falling across her in long, pale strips. 23 hours remained before the board's deadline. She asked Daniel one question. Could he put Walter, Clover, and Fig in the car and drive south today? He said he was already looking for the carrier. The 400-kilometer drive took the better part of the day. Daniel had lined the travel crate with blankets from the station, blankets that smelled of the only home these 3 cats had ever known. Walter rode upright at the front of the crate, composed, watching the road. Clover groomed herself with steady patience. Fig chirped softly at intervals the entire way south, filling the cab with a sound that felt against all logic, like urgency. Doctor. Briggs met Daniel at the access road as the afternoon light began its long lean toward the horizon. She walked him and the crate along a quiet route through the facility, away from the main activity areas, to the viewing area adjacent to Pip's enclosure. They stopped. Daniel looked at Doctor. Briggs. She nodded once. He lifted the latch. Walter stepped out of the crate with the deliberate, unhurried calm of a cat who has never been in a hurry about anything. He put all 4 paws on the unfamiliar ground and raised his broad face into the afternoon air. His nostrils worked steadily. His ears moved. He took 3 slow steps forward and stopped. His whole body went still, the particular stillness of a cat who has found exactly what it came looking for. 30 meters away, in the deep shade of the enclosure's far wall, a small gray shape lay motionless on the red earth. Walter opened his mouth and released a sound long, low, rolling a trill that carried through the dry air with a clarity that seemed impossible for such a small animal to produce. 1 full second of silence. Then Pip's head came up. Not slowly. Not with the reluctant effort of an exhausted body rousing itself. Her head lifted in a single, laum, fluid motion, and her ears swept wide open, that full, wing-spread elephant expression that means complete and total alertness, and her trunk rose into the air and began to turn. Very slowly, the way something turns when it is waking from a long dream and relearning how the world smells. She made a sound. Dr. 1. Briggs had heard that sound before, in the overnight recordings, in the dark, aimed at nothing visible. Now it had a direction. Now it had an answer. Walter called back. Clover stepped from the crate and added her voice lower, steadier. Fig tumbled out behind her and immediately contributed as much noise as a young orange cat is physically capable of producing, which turned out to be a remarkable amount. Pip rolled off her side and pushed herself upright. She did not move the way she had moved in the past 3 weeks, that slow, effortful shuffle of a body spending reserves it could not afford to spend. She crossed her enclosure with the kind of forward momentum that belongs to an animal that knows exactly where it is going and cannot get there fast enough. Her trunk extended, her ears wide, her feet raising small clouds of red dust with every step. The enclosure gate opened. Daniel followed his cats inside. Walter walked directly to Pip's front left leg and pressed the full length of his body against it, his eyes closing, his purr rising immediately, a vibration so deep and steady that it was visible in the movement of his chest. Pip's trunk came down slowly and rested across his back. Not gripping, not pressing, just resting. The way you place your hand on someone's shoulder when words would only get in the way. Clover took her position at Pip's right side, sitting tall, her gaze moving calmly around the enclosure perimeter. And Fig, because he was Fig, and because some things do not change, dropped immediately into a play crouch, fixed his amber eyes on the swinging tip of Pip's trunk, and waited. Pip swung her trunk toward him. He batted it with both soft paws. She pulled it back. He crouched again, tail tip trembling. She swung it forward. He batted it again, and the sound that came from Pip in that moment, a bright, bubbling rumble woven through with rising, chirping notes, was something none of the monitoring staff had ever heard her make before. One of the younger veterinary technicians watching through the observation window reached up and pressed both hands over her mouth. Within 30 minutes, Pip walked to her water trough and drank until it was nearly empty. Within the hour, she was pulling steadily at a bundle of fresh browse, the first solid food she had accepted in 21 days. The monitoring equipment tracked the shift across every measurement as the evening came on. Heart rate settling, breathing deepening and smoothing out, body temperature finding its normal range and holding there. By the time the stars were fully out above the Amboseli plain, all four of them were resting together in the enclosure, Walter against Pip's front leg, where he had apparently always belonged. Clover at her right side, close and quiet. Fig curled in the warm hollow between Pip's chin and the ground, one small orange paw resting lightly against the gray skin of her cheek. And Pip breathing in the long, slow cadence of an animal that has finally, after a very long time, stopped searching. Doctor. Briggs filed her report to the board before midnight. There would be no further discussion of euthanasia. The months that followed required creativity from everyone involved. Daniel found a small property near the center and established a regular visitation schedule. New protocols, new safety guidelines, a board of directors who had not planned for 3 orange cats on the rehabilitation roster, but the results left little room for argument. Pip grew steadily. Her integration with the elephant herd moved faster than anyone had expected. She approached even the most anxious new arrivals with a quiet, unhurried steadiness that tended to settle them down. The staff had a theory about where that quality came from. 2 weeks in the company of cats, they said, teaches any creature that staying calm and staying close is often the most powerful thing you can do. Walter, Clover, and Fig became fixtures at the center in ways nobody had planned. Their presence during visitation days had a noticeable settling effect on other distressed animals, and the staff quietly began factoring them into certain transition schedules. The center's director, who had greeted the original arrangement with open skepticism, was eventually overheard telling a visiting researcher that those 3 cats had done more for the center's outcomes than 3 years of new teen dollar set equipment. He said it as a joke. He was not entirely joking. Daniel kept photographing everything. His images did not argue or explain, they simply showed. Walter pressed against a gray leg, eyes closed. Clover on her patrol circuit, forehead touching warm skin. Fig and Pip mid-game, trunk extended, paws mid-bat. And Pip herself hollow-eyed and still in the early shots. Then ears wide and trunk reaching in, the ones taken after. Unmistakably, extravagantly alive. What stayed with everyone who worked on Pip's case, what stays with anyone who hears it, is something simple that turned out to be enormous. The thing that saved this little elephant was not a medical breakthrough. It was not the intervention of experts or the resources of a well-funded conservation center. It was 3 cats who had decided, without being asked, during 2 unremarkable weeks at a remote research station, that a small gray elephant was theirs to take care of, and a small gray elephant who had decided, just as quietly, that they were hers. That decision made without language, without planning, without any awareness of how unlikely it was, held firm across 400 kilometers in 21 days of silence, and kept a heartbeat going until it could be answered. There is something worth sitting with in that. Family does not always arrive the way we expect it to. Sometimes it walks up to you one ordinary afternoon. sniffs you carefully from trunk to tail, and settles in against your leg as though it has been waiting its whole life to find exactly this spot. And sometimes, if you are very lucky, and the people around you are willing to believe in things that seem impossible, it finds its way back to you when you need it most. Pip still greets Walter first at every visit. Her trunk comes down and rests across his broad orange back, and his eyes close, and his purr rises into the dry African air between them unhurried, certain, unchanged from the very first time. A greeting that carries. In whatever language lives beneath language, I knew you would come back. I was here the whole time. I am still here, and he presses a little closer, and she breathes a little deeper, and somewhere in the red dust and the acacia shade of a Kenyan afternoon, that is more than enough. That has always been more than enough.